currency and commodity structuring. And I continue to spend the majority of my time at the firm in our global banking and markets business, working with institutional clients. And I now work in our private wealth business, taking care of North Asia private wealth and also the capital markets business for Asia Pacific. Now, just a very quick introduction to the firm. Goldman Sachs is a leading global financial institution, which is dedicated to delivering exceptional financial services to a very large and diversified client base. Since 1869, our people have served our clients as a trusted advisor and a proven risk manager. Now, we believe the financial performance comes from having the very best people working intensely on behalf of our clients. We have two world-class interconnected franchises, global banking and markets, and asset and wealth management that work cohesively to serve our clients under the one Goldman Sachs ethos. Now, in global banking and markets, we provide financing, advisory services, risk distribution, and hedging for institutional and corporate clients. And this includes investment banking, FIC, which is fixed income, currency, and commodities, as well as equities. We have been the long-standing advisor of choice, and we remain a leading global risk intermediary. And in asset and wealth management, we provide advice, investing, and execution for institutions as well as individuals across both public and private markets. Now, this includes asset management and private wealth management. We have more than $3 trillion in assets under supervision, and we are a leading global active asset manager with a top 5 alternatives business and a premier ultra high net worth franchise. Now, in addition to global banking and markets and asset and wealth management, we have global investment research that provides original, fundamental insights and analysis for clients in the equity, fixed income, currency, and commodities markets. And underpinning all of these businesses, we have extremely important core functions in control, finance, and operating divisions, representing areas of expertise such as technology, risk compliance, legal, vendor management, and human capital management, and others. And these divisions are vitally important to keep the firm's businesses running effectively. All of our people strive to serve our clients with excellence, while at the same time protecting and enhancing the firm's robust risk management culture, which is one of the defining characteristics of Goldman Sachs, with 157 years of track record delivering performance across cycles. Now, I've spent the majority of my career in Asia. I've worked in London for a year, and I've worked very closely with colleagues across many different markets and continue to do so across many different divisions. Now, Asia's diversity across cultures, economies, and ways of thinking is what makes working here both challenging and very rewarding. Now, at Goldman Sachs, you never really work in isolation. Teams are often global, spanning countries and time zones. I'm very used to 8 p.m. calls and supporting scaled clients with global needs. Now, much of the work in Asia is global in nature, often connecting the region with the Americas and Europe. And as a result, teams are frequently involved in complex, high-impact work that requires both regional expertise and global coordination. Now, over time, this kind of environment really helps to develop not just technical skills, which are very important, but also communication, collaboration, and respect for different viewpoints. Now, for many of you in the early stage of your careers, in a couple of years, this global exposure becomes one of the most valuable part of your development. Asia is a key region for the firm's long-term growth, with a strong and expanding presence across Tokyo, Singapore, and Hong Kong, and the wider Asia. Markets move very quickly, industries change, and teams have to adapt constantly. And this creates tremendous opportunities to learn quickly, to ask questions, and to take on responsibility early in your career. Now, many of you today may be thinking about internships or early career opportunities. I hope so. And at our core, we are a banking, markets, and asset and wealth management firm, which just means that we solve problems and we deliver solutions for clients in different ways, from advising to financing to transacting. Our internships and early career programs are designed to give you first-hand exposure to what work actually looks like. Interns are not here just to observe, they contribute, they work on real projects, they learn directly from experienced professionals. Apprenticeship culture is very strong at Goldman Sachs, and the focus is on learning, development, and understanding how the firm supports its clients and teams. Now, to me, if I can humbly say, it is always an exciting time to join the firm. Goldman Sachs is one of the premier brands of any business of global scale, and it is a real talent factory, evident not just with the people who work here, but also what they go on to do. Now, what keeps me as excited as I was on my first day at the firm in 2006 is our unique culture that's defined by client service, excellence, integrity, and partnership, and our world-class client franchise that we really work with the largest and most interesting clients in the world, and we work hard together to earn that privilege each and every single day. Now, just one final thought before we bring on the real event. Now, we don't expect anyone to have everything figured out at this stage or any stage, really. But curiosity, openness, and a willingness, or preferably an intense drive to learn, are what mattered most. It is so great to see such a global audience. As a global firm, our success depends on people bringing different perspectives, backgrounds, and ideas. So just be yourself through this process. We are confident that you have something to share. And we hope that today gives you a clearer sense of who we are, who Goldman Sachs is, what it's like to work in Asia, and how you might explore opportunities with us. So up next, you'll hear from our analysts and associates who bring with them a wide range of experiences across different businesses, teams, and locations. Without further ado, we have Caroline Ko, Ryohei Kurita, and Li Changyu. If I could pass it to Ryohei to introduce himself.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Ryohei Kurita, and I am a third-year analyst working in the Global Investment Research Division at the Tokyo office. I currently cover small mid-cap companies and the transportation space, and it is my great pleasure to talk with all of you.
If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Carolyn, and similar to Ling, I am Singaporean and I sit in the Singapore office. My career with Goldman started as a summer analyst in 2023 in private wealth management. Upon graduation from Nanyang Technological University in the same year, I actually returned to Goldman fresh out of school, and I've been supporting the private wealth management business ever since in the client onboarding space.
So thank you so much, Ling, and everyone. Great honor to be here. My name is Changyu Li, currently the fourth-year associate at the China Advisor Group, investment banking. So I graduated from Hong Kong University of Science and Technology in 2020, joined the firm in 2021 summer as a lateral hiring, a bit different from the last two, and have spent 5 years with the firm now. So I would say it's a very exciting and rewarding journey, and very happy to going to share this with all of you. Yeah.
So at Goldman Sachs, we aspire to be the world's most exceptional financial institution. Our mission is to advance sustainable economic growth and financial opportunity across the globe. In Asia, to do that means having to navigate one of the most dynamic and diverse economic landscapes in the world. Perhaps could each of you briefly explain what your division does on a daily basis in service of our clients? Ryohei, do you want to start, please?
Sure. I think global investment research at Goldman is very well summarized by our divisional mission, which is as follows. To produce analytically ambitious, client-focused research with out-of-consensus conclusions in a fast-paced environment where time to market is of essence. And as the mission outlines at GIR, we research different companies, macro phenomena, and industry trends at a very deep level by providing valuable insights to institutional investors across different regions in a timely manner. And we also connect clients with different companies, industry leaders, and experts at conferences, which we host, which can be extremely, extremely critical in creating alpha and investment ideas for our clients. And my day-to-day tasks do vary significantly, but at its core, my team is really constantly looking and researching new companies to cover, especially because my team is in charge of growth stocks in Japan. And so the research process involves screening for companies based on different financial metrics, as well as macro themes, conducting 50 to 80 interviews per quarter to different companies, creating models for a select few, and then potentially beginning coverage. And I find this process to be extremely fulfilling and exciting as we do multiple initiations per year, and we're always providing niche but interesting investment ideas to our clients. So, research on the surface sounds primarily like a desk job looking at Excel models and financial metrics all the time, but actually it is a much more active and relationship driven and fast-paced job. And that element of going the extra mile to disseminate insights that the market still hasn't priced in, that's what draws me to this job.
Here, yes, our content is an extremely important point of engagement with all of our clients across institutions as well as individual clients. So thank you very much for the great work that you do in GIR. Carolyn.
Thanks, Ling. At a high level, private wealth management at Goldman Sachs focuses on advising and servicing high net worth individuals, families, as well as institutions on how to manage, grow, and preserve their wealth. I think that private wealth business is an increasingly accelerating one. And what makes PWM for short at Goldman so unique is the access to the firm's global platform. I think the clients benefit from insights across markets, a wide range of investment opportunities, including public and private markets, and tailored solutions that are built around their specific goals. On a day to day basis, my role in client onboarding sits at the front end of the client journey. When a client decides to come on board to open an account with Goldman, we are responsible to onboard these clients. And what this entails essentially is that we work very closely with various stakeholders to collect and review information, perform due diligence checks in the very highly changing regulatory environment that we now sit in, and also ensure that all our clients are always meeting the regulatory needs. And I think what I find interesting is that there are no two clients that's ever the same. Each client bring about a different background, a different structure, and a different set of needs. So you're always problem solving and learning something new. And I think at its very, very core, what keeps me drawn to this business is the relationship driven nature of it, where every client is so vastly different, and the sense of fulfillment that comes from understanding their need, partnering with different teams across the firm to deliver the customized outcomes for each client.
Sure. Could not summarize our positioning of our ultra high net worth business better than you did. And thank you again for all the work that you do with client onboarding. It is a critical part of our business. The private wealth business is a rapidly growing business, right? And one, to your point, I think, the client onboarding process is actually the first touch point that many clients have with the firm. And it is super critical in this hyper competitive market that first initial point of contact is as smooth and as representative of a Goldman Sachs experience as possible. So thank you for your team's work on that. Changyu.
Sure. So being at investment banking, we spend most of our time to be with the client and understand their needs. Second is bring innovative and sounded banking ideas tailored to their profile and financial situation, also the latest capital markets condition. And the third one is rigorous and I would say SOTA, state-of-the-art deal execution quality. So to elaborate a little bit more, the first one is about building the understanding and the trust with the client, spending time with our clients because we wanted to craft the most bespoke capital solutions or M&A ideas to one specific client. By the way, I think the client exposure at Goldman Sachs is incredible. I have the privilege to meet with a client, including the C-suite executives, and hear their firsthand thoughts and needs, which is very important to build commercial sense and insights. The second one is about navigating through the global dynamics and be really up to the market. So today's world is moving at a high pace, and lots of breaking news is going on every day. So we're trying to logically break down the large narratives into the actionable items. So for example, getting listed could fund their capex spending, or refinancing by some other financial instruments could optimize their capital structure, or some bolt-on acquisition that is in line with their firm strategy, so on and so forth. So the last one I want to touch point is about our excellence, reputation, and defining the industry highest standard of quality, I would say. I think it's fair to say GS has one of the highest requirements of the quality, which is reflected in both firm level and individual level. We're always committed to deliver the best by a tremendous sense of responsibility and ownership at each and every one of us.
Great. It is a noisy world, it is a noisy environment, and cutting through the noise, getting the best advice to the clients is, what we're here to do. And, kudos to the investment banking team for always being at the top of their game. So thank you very much for sharing some of your daily experiences with each of your roles. Can you just really unpack for our students on the call, like what specific aspects of your daily work excites you the most? Why do you pick the job that you pick? And, given that, many of you have spoken about the way we do things, which is defined by our culture, what makes the culture at Goldman Sachs unique? Rohit, can we start with you?
Sure. I think the crux of what really has kept Goldman Sachs the best of the best in finance essentially comes down to its relentless pursuit of change. And at the firm, we rarely end divisional meetings, even in GIR with celebrations or a rundown of accomplishments. We always end meetings with a list of things to improve upon or change, even when we've had a record year. And I think that's what makes work at this firm very fulfilling. And I've come to realize that firsthand actually during my summer internship in 2023, where I had the opportunity to work in a very tight-knit team in the automobiles team. And I learned the importance of digging deep and deeper. And I've submitted deliverables where I thought was really good, but had so many inconsistencies and points of improvements when reviewed. And, while that was very or somewhat disheartening in the short run, I've learned to really embrace this culture of pursuing excellence and always looking to, improve things and being better. And that really has encouraged me to deliver the very best for my clients. So I think that's what really shines in terms of the culture at Goldman Sachs.
Thank you, Rohit. Carolyn?
I think what excites me the most about my role is the exposure as well as the learning curve that comes in such a bespoke driven business. Even in client onboarding, you're not just doing one isolated task, you're working across teams, across regions, and regulatory landscapes, and often on quite complex client cases. So, no two tasks are ever the same, even in an operational perspective, because there's always the constant element of problem solving and change. And I get to be part of that collaborative culture. So seeing how everyone on the team upholds that level of excellence, I think that is exactly what spurs and motivates me to continually do the same as well. I also find it meaningful that the work that we do sits at the very start of the client journey. How we onboard a client really sets the tone of their entire experience with the firm. So there's a strong sense of responsibility and ownership, even though I may not directly talk to the client as well. And I think what I find very special about my function is how holistic we are, especially in Asia, where within client onboarding, we don't just focus on just, let's say, account opening, but we also support account maintenance. So we're really following through the entire different stages of the client lifecycle rather than just one touch point. That gives me both fungibility and a much broader understanding of the client lifecycle, essentially allowing myself to build a more well-rounded and holistic skill set. And I think lastly, in terms of culture, one thing that really stands out about Goldman is the mentor as well as the partnership culture that we have. Even as a junior, you're given the opportunity to learn directly from people who are very experienced, and at the same time, you're trusted with real responsibility as well. And I think it's quite a unique balance, and people are always very willing to help because the work that we do is always so interconnected. Collaboration is really part of the day to day rather than just a concept that we hear. And I also think that what really helps me to grow as well is not just understanding my own function, but also connecting the dots across functions to better understand the processes and make a valuable difference in them and closing the gap.
Okay.
Yes, I really want to, refer back to what Ling just shared about our core values. There are three biggest reasons that make me feel like this is the ideal place that I want to work, which are the excellence, integrity, and partnership. So speaking of the excellence, I really enjoy working with the best group of talents with, great work ethics, and everyone is delivering their best or trying to deliver their best. I've always been amazed by how sincerely hardworking that my colleagues are. They are all, live role models I can learn from. Each of them have their own unique strength and charisma, I would say. When I join the firm as an analyst, when I look up, I would feel like the associate on the transactions really know about the process very well. And being as associate at the moment, when I look up, I think the VPs and MDs are really handling the client conversations, the dynamics, and understand, what's going on, which are, again, the a real role models that being the person I want to be in the future. The second one is about the integrity. So looking back at the transactions I participated in and closed, I think one of the most differentiating advantages we have is that we provide the most truthful advice to our clients. Sometimes it's probably not the exactly what on top of their mind, but with time being, it eventually becomes the most beneficial to their growth and value in the long term. And in turn, it benefits our relationship with our clients to become a trusted advisor. So last one is I want to talk about our partnership culture. So one GS initiatives is very, down to earth in terms of the opportunities referral and how we bring the best service package to our clients. I really want to share that, IPO transaction I participated, which was, referred by the PWM team who originated the access to the founder's family, and we ultimately successfully led that offering and closed that transaction.
So thrilled to hear that our culture is alive through the region and across all levels of the organization. And trying is the first step to doing. So thank you for trying every single day. Now, I hope that many in the audience today are keen to explore potential careers with us, and you were all in their shoes not too long ago. So what advice would you give to the students online looking to start and to build a long-term career at Goldman Sachs? Maybe we switch it up. Can we start with Carolyn?
Yep. I think if I have to distill into a few things that really mattered for me, first would be definitely to have the right mindset, a growth mindset. I think coming in, you'll feel like you have to have everything figured out or be the smartest person in the room. But I think to me, what really matters more is how resourceful, how adaptable, and how committed you are to doing things right and doing things well. Something I always ask myself is this the right thing to do? In a role like client onboarding, where you have to stay on top of the evolving regulations and navigate unique complexities of every client, there's a real sense of responsibility in safeguarding both the client as well as the firm. You're not just processing tasks, you're making judgment calls that have real implications. And the emphasis on risk management isn't just theoretical, it's embedded in the way we think and the decisions that we make every single day. And I think that is also why the firm has always remained very resilient through different market cycles, because that discipline around risk isn't situational. It's part of our culture. And apart from that, I think something else is also that would be to be very intentional about building relationships. I think Goldman is have a very collaborative environment, and I found it really important not just to focus on the work, but to also understand who am I working with, to learn from different people, and to build genuine connections, because this is exactly what you need to not to not just excel, but also to bring value to the table. So overall, I also say focus less on having everything figured out from day one and more on how you show up, your mindset, your effort, how you work with others. Because at the end of the day, those are the things that people will remember and trust you for, not just what you know, but how you work.
Amazing. And any tips for how to get a job at Goldman Sachs?
Well, I would say put be you and be someone who strives for excellence. I think that is one thing that is really in our culture.
Yeah,
Sure.
you do you want
Yes. So I think if I have a, one of the most important advice I want to give to my younger self, it's I think it's really continue to challenge myself and embrace the challenge. So I think the market is really, dynamic at the moment, and we cannot say, never say never because it's unprecedented. So there's a lot of, new regulations regime introduced into these markets, and there's a lot of um, things that can be done before that's no longer valid in the future. What is something is um, unprecedented, but it actually is doable nowadays. So do not afraid of making mistakes, but just make sure that you are self-iterating faster than the market so that you are leading the markets. On the other hand, if you are, stay within your comfort zone and stop iterating yourself, then you are running behind the market. So I think with that mentality, that is very, I would say, critical and crucial to achieve excellence.
to?
Yeah, so I'm personally still very much in the early stages of my career, but one, advice that I would give, I've already really come to realize that Goldman offers endless opportunities for you to upskill and perform out of your comfort zone. And so, I think being resilient is really, really key, even when you're met with so many difficulties and challenges, because that's a normalcy here. And you're really bound to meet many during your career, and that's actually a good thing. So, as I mentioned, this place is a place where you'll be tested, but it's a really good thing. You're always looking to improve and be better. So having that grit would be extremely, extremely important.
Amazing. So for our panelists, Ryohei and Changyu, so Ryohei, you went to school in the UK, and after graduation, what motivated your return to Asia?
Yeah. So after graduations, I went to a university called UCL in the UK, and I decided that I want to join the Tokyo office because I wanted to put my bilingualism to good use. So that's one reason. But actually, more importantly, I wanted to understand the Japanese market a little bit better. I used to focus a lot on the US market or the UK market, but because the economy was and is at an inflection point, I think it was an interesting time to really, shift my career. I've never lived in Japan before, so I thought, it'd be an interesting time for me to start my career here. And as evidenced by the Nikkei reaching an all-time high today as well, I think it continues to be a super exciting time to be working in GIR especially at a time like this. And I'm very grateful for the firm to have provided me with this opportunity.
I mean, indeed, very, very important market for us and for investors. Changyu.
Yes, so to share a little bit more background, so I recently relocated Hong Kong from Beijing to reunion with my family. And I genuinely appreciate the firm's open door policy, in terms of the locations and putting into the bigger picture, regional leadership and my line manager are very supportive in my long-term career development, and really feel about the firm is treating us, treating every people as assets. So other than the locations, they're giving lots of insights and advices in how to acquire necessary skills to fulfill the next stage of your career. And to add on top, I think from my perspective, these are really two sides of equation. So you you need to take care of your career very seriously, very sincerely, and give it all efforts. And the firm will take care of you sincerely. I think it's always no harm to thrive and be in top bracket performers, and enjoy what I'm doing right.
Wonderful reflection. I've had 5 jobs across 3 different businesses in my 20 years here, and I have to say mobility is one of the things that we very much focus on in order to have the flexibility to provide our great employees like yourself, Changyu, the mobility to do what you want to do and where you need to do it, right? It might not fit perfectly with your timing, but I think it's very much core to how we manage our human resources. And, I've been a great beneficiary of the mobility resources of the firm. And so let's switch gears and talk about AI. It's definitely top of mind for everybody, for consumers, for enterprises, for the markets. How are you using AI in your daily work if you're using it? And how do you think AI will impact what you do? And what is your advice for our students to thrive in the age of AI? Ryohei, can we start with you?
Sure. This is a very difficult question, but I think, AI obviously is very, very important, and it's about to make processes much more important, much more efficient for us. And while there are concerns that it may replace certain processes, and it'll definitely replace repetitive processes. It won't completely take over the job itself of, investment research, for example, and resolve the information asymmetry between corporates and institutional investors. And that's because there's really so many elements that are not digitalized yet, and there are so many processes that are still human. And um, you know, considering the conferences that we also host, that's a lot. A lot of that is very much human and very much not digital. So that being said, I think staying ahead though in the AI game is extremely important. And being an AI native will allow you to excel and create value early on in your career. A lot of our divisional senior leaders, they repeatedly mention that they will have to rely on the interns and the full-time analysts because they're young digital natives, and so being ahead in terms of the AI game will allow you to create value and leverage. And so being creative, I think, is going to be really key with AI, and being on a constant lookout for productivity improvements and automation will really be key in driving your career at Goldman for the next 10 years and onwards.
And you're better positioned than I am for sure. Changyu.
Yeah, so I think from banking business perspective, we are benefited a lot from the technology advancement, the productivity translating into the competitive advantages. Putting into a longer narrative, we used to hand sketch slides decades ago. Then we have PPT and Excel to run the content and numbers. So nowadays we have AI to double the efficiency. In day-to-day real cases, we can leverage their strong proficiency, translation, and drafting. We can also be better prepared ahead of client meetings with their, help to navigate through the dialogues, especially when the dialogues are long and has a lot of correspondence. But with more and more user cases, I never feel stronger that now that I need to be more mindful of our value add as innovative, banker ideas generator and quality control doorkeeper. We're running a licensed business, and we are the one, accountable for our work and advices at the end of the day. So totally agree with Rohit's point that our responsibility and ownership are never shorter than before.
Amazing. Carolyn.
I think in terms of skill, one of the most important is to be adaptable to the changing environment of AI and being comfortable with change and continuously learning because the tools and technologies will keep evolving. The second is definitely critical thinking because as AI becomes more integrated into our workflows, it's not just about using it, but knowing how to question the outputs, interpret results, and making sound decisions with it. It's about moving into a higher level order of thinking and thinking beyond steps one, two, three, and instead move towards leveraging AI to provide value. So I think something that remains constant as well is that regardless of how technology evolves, we must have a strong sense of client focus because at the end of the day, understanding a client's unique situation still is a very human element, especially in a business like PWM, where relationships are built not overnight but over time. So for me, I think that reinforces the importance of delivering excellent client services. Even if you're not directly facing the client, because every part of the process contributes to the overall experience that we are driving for.
Yeah, for sure. I am not as digitally native as everybody on the call is, but I have been through 20 years, more than 20 years in the industry of finance. And, we've seen technology evolve massively over these 20 years, right? And people have been around for even longer. And I think, David Solomon, our CEO, likes to talk about when he started off as an analyst, it took him 6 hours to compile a stock chart, right? Which is just really at everyone's fingertips for free these days, right? So for all the very exciting talk about what AI could do, and I, for one, am greatly anticipatory of, the productivity gains that could come with AI. I do think that it is incumbent upon all of us to learn how to use AI, to adopt them as quickly, as effectively in our daily work and service of our clients as possible. But I am also very confident that I think, we will be able to adapt to be the users of AI as opposed to, having AI be in replacement of all the stuff that we do for our clients. So with that, I think I'll hand it over to Raymond or Abby to go through some of the Q&A. I see that we've gotten quite a lot of questions from the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I can condense a couple just to make sure that we're getting the most out of them. So there's lots of questions around getting the most out of the internship and how do interns hit the ground running and make real impact once they start on the desk. So maybe, Ling, I know you've asked lots of questions. Maybe I can turn this back to you first, if that's okay. How do you think interns that you've seen join the firm over the years have been most successful and hit the ground running?
Thank you for the question. I do think that is a very, very important question because Goldman Sachs does take in a lot of analysts through the internship pipe, right? So I think, one of the most important ways to try to get a full-time position as an analyst at Goldman Sachs is to get an internship at Goldman Sachs. So I do think that is very important to kind of keep abreast of kind of all the timelines that we have in terms of, securing an internship position. It's actually quite rare that we hire outside of the internship pool for a full-time analyst position, right? So this is one thing that I would say right up front. And in terms of the analysts who have thrived and who have managed to secure a full-time position at Goldman, I think they are the ones who have displayed all the characteristics that, my panelists have talked about throughout the call, right? I do think that it is a keen desire to learn, right? And I think it is extremely obvious which interns are really in it to be learning for the longer term and to be helpful to the business that they're part of, right, as much as they can, right? And so the attitude that you have towards learning, towards absorbing as much information as you can, to ask questions in a way that is not detracting from, kind of the overall purpose of the business, but is quickly you can show the value that you can bring even as an intern. And I'm also very optimistic in the age of AI, interns will become even more valuable even sooner into their internship, right? So I do think that it's evolving fast, but what I'm confident will not change is our apprenticeship culture, right? So I do think that the senior people in this firm, and that starts from the analysts all the way up to the partners, they have a keen interest in helping interns convert into an analyst. Because as I said, this is the most important type of analyst that we have, right? Our key differentiator on top of our culture is just the caliber of our people, right? So we do take the conversion of our interns very seriously, and therefore we want to work closely with them to make sure that we are converting the right people into full-time analysts. So in summary, in answer to your question, Abby, is really just this very keen thirst of learning to really understand what drives the business, how we bring value to our clients, and to be as helpful to the desk as possible. The ability to get to know people across the businesses that they're working for, but also I've seen some really lively entrepreneur analysts get to know people from across the firm, and they continue to do that as full-time analysts because, to pick up on what was mentioned by many of the panelists, the one GS culture, how we work across the firm to deliver the best of Goldman Sachs to our clients is a core part of how we operate, right? So the ability to get to know people, understand what they do, and to connect the dots to how you can be more helpful to your clients and other people's clients in this firm, I think that's key to the success of a junior person at Goldman Sachs.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And that hunger and excitement to learn is really something that we talked to interns a lot about on day one of their time at the firm as well. So yeah, absolutely great. Carolyn, you were one of my interns that I hired. So it's been wonderful to watch you from that point up until joining panels now to speak to us for future interns. Is there anything that you think that really helped you with your internship with us?
I think what Ling mentioned earlier, I totally echo her about how it's so important to have that spirit of excellence. And I think something that helped me during my internship was definitely I constantly question myself, how can I bring value to the table, right? But I think apart from just bring value to the table, one thing that I feel would be a piece of advice I would give my younger self would be to also understand that in an internship, it's only for mine, it was 9 weeks, if I'm not wrong. It is really a sprint. So I think in terms of practical advice that I can give is to ensure that time management is really key because there are many things to do and it really moves very, very fast. So other than time management, it's doing all the different projects, doing all the different tasks that you need to do, but yet also be very intentional with building that kind of relationships with different people, building relationships with your peers, building relationship with your team, and also going the extra mile to also not just network on people of the same level, but upwards as well, because that is where you can get in a way, great insights when you're talking to upper management as well. And I think that is what makes Goldman so special is that here it's really a very open culture. We have this thing called catch-up culture, where if you were to, let's say, ping any of the MDs, they'll be super happy to just say, yeah, sure, let's go for a chat. So I think was what really sealed the deal for me when I was an intern at Goldman that made me go, I really wish to come back here. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. We've had quite a few questions on culture as well. So Rio, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about some of the observations that you've had just in your time in the firm, anything on culture.
Sure. Just to sidetrack a little bit though, I do really recommend everyone to apply for the summer internship. I think it was genuinely one of the best career opportunities that I've had personally. That being said, yeah, the culture of Goldman Sachs really comes down to, excellence, as I said, but I think everyone here also has an exceptional ownership of their own career, including the interns. And I think those who really, show up and are present throughout their whole sort of time at their internship, or even when you become an analyst, associate, whatever. I think everyone is thinking of, how they can sort of contribute to the firm more, at what level can they sort of, excel and achieve. And so I think you know, everyone is very much a learner. And I think that's what sort of shines um shines for people at Goldman Sachs.
Fantastic, thank you. And Cheng, maybe you can take the last one. I'm going to position this to you because you've worked across different offices, and one of the questions was around how does that culture differ from office to office, and does it? What are your thoughts?
I don't really think there's a culture difference between different offices. I think yeah, our core values and our cultures are universally standard across different offices. And to add on top of Rohei's point, I really think that people here have a great sense of responsibilities. We have a problem-solving mindset. So even if the problem is very difficult, very unprecedented, you can feel like at each level, the team leaders are thinking about, have the correct direction, correct problem-solving approach. And everyone was, have a great sense of responsibility and ownership to, tackle down that problem for our clients, which is ultimately generating value for them. So I think, you feel a great sense of morale here. So you don't feel like you are left behind or excluded when there's a very difficult moments. You feel like you are on the safe hands. You have team colleagues have your back. So I think that's very unique here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We had more questions on our recruiting process, which I'm actually going to cover next. So that leads us nicely in. But with that, a huge thank you to all of our moderator and our panelists for a really insightful session, hearing more about your backgrounds and careers. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, for those of you that I've not met before, I know there's a couple of names of people that we've already met on campus at various schools across different locations, which really is a joy to see you engage with us kind of month after month as we get down the process. But for those that I haven't met, my name is Abby. I'm one of the recruiters and I'm based in the Singapore office. I've been with the firm for around 8.5 years, and this is the second office that I worked in. So I'm originally from the UK. I went to the University of Nottingham. And I spent the first five years of my career there. So I'm really excited to be with you this evening, this afternoon, or this morning. And before we wrap up, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes on recruiting and what opportunities at Goldman Sachs actually look like. Because one thing that we hear consistently at events like this is that people often assume that there's only one path in. And the reality is that we hire a really diverse range of people with very different backgrounds, very different interests, and very different stages of their career. So some people join us as interns, often whilst they're still figuring out what part of finance or the broader firm that they're most interested in, which is totally fine. Others join as analysts or universities, straight out of university or shortly after graduating. And many people join us later as experienced hires, like I did, having built their skills in other industries, different firms before coming to Goldman Sachs. Across all of these different routes, we're not looking for one profile or one degree program, and we hire from different universities, different academic backgrounds, and different geographies. What matters most to us, and what's been alluded to throughout this session, is how you think, how you learn, and how you work with other people, not just what's written on your CV. Our summer internship is a key way into the firm, but it's also a two-way process. For you, it's a chance to do really meaningful work, build real relationships, and get exposure to what working at Goldman Sachs actually feels like day to day. Our end goal and the whole point of the internship is to show you what the job of a junior analyst actually looks like. So day one, you know what to expect. But for us, it's a chance to get to know you properly. So that's not just how you perform in an interview, it's actually how you collaborate, how you ask questions, and how you grow over the 9 or 10 weeks that you're with us. Many of our full-time analysts start their careers with us as interns. And honestly, as I said to Karen just now, the best part of my job is actually watching you grow your career over the years at the firm. It's incredibly satisfying and very, very cool from that initial first conversation with you and looking at your CV to asking you to join events and represent the firm for us. So key application timelines and what's coming up. So applications for our summer internship program and new analyst program typically opens in early July. And that timing is really, really important. We always encourage candidates to apply early. So we hire in some divisions on a rolling basis. So do get your application in early, but most importantly, apply thoughtfully. You'll hear lots and lots of things from various sources right through the recruiting season, and sometimes it can get quite overwhelming. So my advice is to really focus on understanding the roles that you're applying for, the businesses you're interested in, and what you actually want to learn from the experience. What do you want to get out of the summer internship? And then work backwards to what you want to do. So how to stay engaged with us. We want you to keep in touch, and whether you're thinking about applying this year, next year, or further down the line, staying connected really, really matters. So that can be through events like this, through conversations with people at the firm, or spending some time on our website or other sources learning more about what we do. There's no expectation that you've got it all figured out in one day. We're here to really help you do that. As you'll see from the screen, we're hosting another webinar in June where you can learn more from my team on tips of the trade, how to make the best out of your application. And we'll really drill down into some of that kind of CV skills workshop, an interview workshop, how to nail the hire view, what to expect, all of that good stuff. And that'll be held before our applications open. So it's very, very nicely timed. You've had a lot of information, so I'll be wrapping up very, very shortly. But if there's one thing that I'd leave you with, it's this. There's more than one way to build your career here, and we genuinely mean that. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us, and we hope to see many more of you in the coming months.
Thank you. Are we done?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I think we're good to close. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
As you were great. Thank you so much. I feel
Recording stopped.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Mock team, I think we're good to close the webinar.
So
definitor